Hey everyone, and welcome to our deep dive. Today we're going to be looking at the Industrial Revolution.
Okay.
Specifically how it impacted warfare.
Right.
And we have two sources that we'll be drawing from today.
Okay.
One is the Industrial Revolution's impact on warfare, and the other one is the evolution of warfare, from muskets to missiles.
Sounds good.
So this should be a really fascinating look at how war changed
Absolutely.
during this really dynamic period of history.
Warfare was never the same after the Industrial Revolution.
Right. And it's interesting to think about, we think about the Industrial Revolution, it's all about factories and,
mass production.
Yeah, mass production and, new ways of,
assembly lines.
Yeah, new ways of producing things.
Right.
But how did that impact something that seems kind of separate from it, like warfare?
Right. And it's fascinating how a period known for, factories and mass production had such a profound impact on battlefields.
Yeah. I know. It's almost like they accidentally invented modern warfare.
Yeah.
But before we get into all of that, I think it's important to kind of set the stage a little bit.
Absolutely.
What was warfare like before all this new technology came along?
So imagine a world without machine guns or long-range artillery.
Right.
Armies were smaller. They relied on hand-to-hand combat.
Right.
Battles often played out over days or even weeks.
Wow.
Think swords, shields, early firearms that took forever to reload.
So it was a lot more up close and personal.
Exactly. And, even though we might think of that era as primitive, there were still incredible innovations.
Yeah.
Like, take chariots, for example, developed in Mesopotamia. Chariots gave armies greater mobility. They were platforms for archers to stand on and really changed the dynamics of battle.
And that kind of shows how humans, even going way back, they're always looking for an edge in warfare.
Absolutely. Humans have always tried to innovate in warfare.
Yeah, so this is like a constant theme throughout history.
It
seems like, though, the Industrial Revolution was, less about gaining an edge and more about just like changing the entire game.
It completely upended existing strategies and tactics. It was a period of such rapid technological development.
Yeah, so let's get into some of these innovations.
Okay.
I guess a good place to start would be with the steam engine.
Right.
Everyone knows it was, used in factories and trains.
Yeah.
But how does it transform warfare?
So the steam engine completely revolutionized transportation.
Okay.
Armies could suddenly move vast distances at speeds they had never seen before.
Right.
And navies were no longer at the mercy of winds and currents.
Because they had
steam-powered ships.
Yes, steam-powered warships.
Right.
This changed the logistics of war.
Oh, wow.
Allowed for larger armies and much faster deployment.
It's almost like the steam engine was like the 19th century equivalent of like a
supersonic jet.
It really sped things up.
But it wasn't just speed, was it?
No, not at all.
Right.
The steam engine also led to powerful new weapons.
Like what?
Well, like ironclad warships.
What are those?
These were warships that were heavily armored.
Okay.
They were virtually impervious to traditional cannons.
Wow.
They could bombard coastal defenses, and they could engage enemy vessels with firepower that was just unimaginable a few decades earlier.
Yeah, so you can see how this is more than just a few upgrades.
Yeah.
This is really like reshaping the battlefield.
Absolutely.
So let's move on to another revolutionary technology.
Okay.
The telegraph.
Right.
I'm guessing it was more than just texting for generals.
The telegraph was absolutely transformative.
Okay.
It allowed for near instantaneous communication across vast distances.
Right.
Commanders could coordinate battlefield movements.
Right.
They could get real-time intelligence.
Oh, wow.
And they could react to enemy actions much more quickly.
So this was a total departure from the past, where messages could take weeks or months.
Absolutely.
So now commanders could finally get a clear picture of what was happening on the battlefield.
Yeah.
And adapt their strategies accordingly.
Exactly.
Wow.
And it wasn't just about tactical advantages. The telegraph also allowed political leaders to exert greater control over military operations.
Yeah. Interesting.
For example, during the American Civil War, President Lincoln could directly communicate with his generals.
Really?
He would receive updates and issue orders in a way that was previously impossible.
That's amazing.
It really changed the way wars were run.
I can only imagine how frustrating it must have been for leaders in the past, just waiting for news to come back while these battles were raging on.
It must have been incredibly difficult.
But communication wasn't the only area where the Industrial Revolution had a massive impact.
No, it wasn't.
All right, so tell me about that.
The Industrial Revolution also led to a dramatic increase in the quality and quantity of weapons and ammunition.
Ooh, now we're getting to the good stuff.
Yes, this is where it gets interesting.
Tell me more about these deadly new toys.
Well, for one, advancements in metallurgy meant that they could produce stronger, more durable steel.
Okay.
This led to the development of more powerful and reliable firearms.
Right.
And artillery that could fire explosive shells over longer distances.
So it's not just about having more weapons.
Yeah.
It's about having better weapons.
Exactly. The Industrial Revolution wasn't just about making more stuff. It was about making things better.
And this had huge implications for the battlefield.
Absolutely.
All right, so now I'm really curious about one weapon in particular.
Which one?
The machine gun.
Ah, yes, the machine gun.
This feels like a turning point to me.
It was a game changer.
Where things get a little bit darker.
Yes, the machine gun was a very powerful weapon.
So tell me about it.
It could fire hundreds of rounds per minute. It could mow down enemy troops with devastating efficiency.
That's incredible.
It completely changed battlefield tactics because charging at an enemy line became practically suicidal.
I'm already getting chills just thinking about the impact that this must have had on soldiers.
It had a huge impact.
It's just the course of battle.
Changed everything.
And we're just getting started.
Yes, there's so much more to explore.
I can't wait.
In the next part of our deep dive, we'll look at specific battles and conflicts.
Oh, great.
To see how all these innovations actually played out in the real world.
So we can see how they were actually used.
Exactly. We'll see the real consequences of these technological advancements.
This is so fascinating, and I'm so ready to dig deeper.
I'm excited to continue our exploration.
Me too. So join us next time as we continue to explore this amazing period of history.
It's a fascinating story.
I can't wait.
All right, so welcome back.
I'm excited to keep going.
Last time we were talking about all those amazing technologies.
Yeah, those game changers.
That came out of the Industrial Revolution. Yeah. So now I think it'd be really cool to kind of shift our focus to the battlefield.
Yeah, let's get into some real world examples.
And actually see how all of these innovations played out.
Like, how did they actually affect battles and campaigns?
Yeah, it's one thing to talk about the theory, but I think it's really interesting to see the actual consequences.
Absolutely.
So I think a great place to start would be the American Civil War.
Okay, yeah.
Because it really illustrates this clash between pre-industrial warfare and industrial warfare.
It was such a turning point in American history.
It really was.
And I'm sensing that it was also a pivotal moment in military history.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
So the Union, with its industrialized North, had a very distinct advantage over the Confederacy.
Okay.
Their factories were just churning out weapons and supplies at a rate that had never been seen before. This allowed them to equip and supply their armies much more effectively.
So their industrial might really gave them this logistical edge.
It really did.
Did this affect, like, their strategies on the battlefield at all?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Right. So the Union could deploy troops and supplies super rapidly thanks to their extensive railway network.
Right, the railroad.
Exactly, a direct result of the Industrial Revolution.
So that really changed things.
Yeah, it allowed them to launch these large-scale offensives and maintain constant pressure on the Confederacy.
Wow, it's like the railroads were like these super highways of war.
It really changed the speed of war.
So what about communication?
Right.
We were talking about the telegraph before, but I'm curious to see how that played out.
Okay, sure.
In an actual conflict like the Civil War.
Well, the telegraph was a game changer for both sides.
Okay.
Commanders could coordinate movements across these vast distances. They could receive real-time intelligence on enemy positions.
Okay.
And they could react to changing battlefield conditions.
So much faster than before.
Yeah, much, much faster.
I bet that was like having a cheat code.
It was a huge advantage.
I can only imagine how useful the telegraph must have been for President Lincoln.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, to be able to just communicate directly with his generals.
It gave him this unprecedented level of control over the war effort.
Wow. Yeah, because no president before had ever experienced that.
Exactly.
That's amazing.
He used the telegraph extensively.
To do what?
To stay informed, to issue orders, and even to shape public opinion.
Really?
Yeah, through communications with journalists.
Wow, so he was like ultimate wartime communicator.
It's no exaggeration to say that the telegraph played a really crucial role in the Union's victory.
So it wasn't just the weapons and the railroads,
right?
But it was also just having this new way to communicate. That really helped the Union.
Absolutely.
Wow. It's amazing to think about how one single technology can just have such a massive impact.
It changed everything.
On a war.
Yeah.
But the Civil War wasn't the only conflict.
No, it wasn't.
That kind of showed this transformative power of the Industrial Revolution.
Right.
So what else was there?
Well, the Crimean War, even though it was fought on a smaller scale, I think it offers another really fascinating glimpse into the changing nature of warfare during this period.
Yeah, I've heard of the Crimean War, but I don't know a ton about it.
Okay, sure.
So tell me a little bit more about it.
Well, the Crimean War was really important because it was the first major appearance of ironclad warships.
Remember those?
Yeah, those steam-powered behemoths.
Right.
They were heavily armored. And they proved to be nearly invulnerable to traditional cannons.
Wow.
Basically signaling the end of the age of wooden warships.
It's like the dinosaurs of the sea.
Yeah.
Like, we're not going to use wood anymore.
Exactly. It was a new era.
You're going to use metal.
That's right.
I bet those ironclads were quite a sight to see.
Oh, I'm sure they were intimidating.
And they must have just dominated naval battles.
Oh, they did.
Okay.
Their superior firepower and armor gave them a decisive advantage over older ships.
Wow. So this was really like the dawn of a new era.
It showed the growing importance of industrial technology in naval warfare.
Okay. So we're starting to see how each of these conflicts is really pushing the boundaries of military technology.
Right.
But I feel like we haven't even gotten to the real impact of all of this.
Right.
I feel like the Industrial Revolution's full impact didn't really become clear until the horrors of World War I.
You're absolutely right.
Like, that's where it really took a dark turn.
World War I was the first truly industrial war. It was just a grim testament to the destructive potential of modern technology.
So how did that happen?
Well, mass production techniques honed during the Industrial Revolution allowed for the creation of these vast armies equipped with millions of rifles, artillery pieces, machine guns.
It was just like a whole new level of warfare.
It was a scale that had never been seen before.
The scale of World War I is just hard to even comprehend. Like, I remember reading about the trench warfare and just like the absolutely staggering casualty numbers.
Yeah.
It must have just been a complete nightmare.
It was a living hell.
For the soldiers who were involved.
Especially with the machine gun.
Yeah.
You know, that really transformed the battlefield into a killing field.
Right. Before you could just kind of charge into enemy lines.
Yeah, frontal assaults were common.
But now that's not really an option.
Not with a machine gun, no.
Yeah, it's like suicide.
Pretty much, yeah.
I can't even imagine what that must have been like for those soldiers just being on the receiving end of that.
The psychological toll must have been immense.
It's like a stark reminder of the human cost.
Right.
Of all of this technological progress.
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword.
But it wasn't just the soldiers who suffered.
No, you're right.
Right, because now...
The Industrial Revolution blurred the lines between the battlefield and the home front.
Yeah, because now factories are being targeted.
Exactly.
And civilians are caught in the crossfire.
That's right.
So it's almost like entire societies are being dragged into these conflicts.
Exactly. That's what total war is.
In a way that just had never been seen before.
That's right.
Because now it's like...
The industrialization of warfare meant that wars weren't just fought by armies anymore. They became total wars.
Right.
That demanded the mobilization of entire nations.
And all of their resources.
Absolutely. Every aspect of society was affected.
Wow. This is giving me a lot to think about.
It's a lot to process.
Because the impact of the Industrial Revolution on warfare was truly profound.
It was.
It touched every aspect of the conflict. From the battlefield to the home front.
Absolutely.
But what about the aftermath?
Right.
What happened after?
That's a great question.
All of this, you know, like, how did the lessons learned during this period shape the way that we think about war today?
That's what we're going to explore in the final part of our deep dive.
Okay, great.
So join us as we delve into the legacy of the Industrial Revolution and its lasting impact on the future of warfare.
I can't wait. Welcome back to our final part of this deep dive.
Yeah.
So we've really gone over a lot of fascinating stuff.
Absolutely. We've covered a lot of ground.
These incredible innovations.
Yeah.
These game-changing battles.
Uh-huh.
And, we've kind of been confronted with the realities of industrial warfare.
The not-so-pleasant side of it all.
Right, exactly. So now, I think it'd be good to zoom out a little bit.
Okay.
Well, look at the bigger picture.
All right.
What is the legacy?
That's a big question.
Yeah, what is the legacy of the Industrial Revolution?
Yeah.
When it comes to how we understand war today?
Well, it's important to remember that the impact of the Industrial Revolution on warfare goes way beyond just specific weapons or tactics.
Okay.
It's about how this period fundamentally changed the relationship between war, society, and technology.
Okay, so tell me more about that.
So before the Industrial Revolution, wars were mainly fought by professional armies.
Okay.
And they often had a pretty limited impact on the everyday lives of civilians.
Right, but then the Industrial Revolution comes along.
Yeah, and it changes everything.
Okay.
We talked about the rise of total war in the last part.
Right, where, entire nations are mobilized for the war effort.
That's right. The Industrial Revolution really blurred the lines between the battlefield and the home front.
Yeah, and it seems like that's something that's still relevant today.
Oh, absolutely. It's more relevant than ever.
Okay.
Factories became just as important as armies.
Wow.
And civilian populations were increasingly seen as legitimate targets.
And this must have had just this huge ripple effect.
Yeah, it really did.
Throughout society.
To transform societies.
So what were some of the changes that we saw?
Well, for one, it led to increased government intervention in industry.
Right.
Governments needed to control resources and production to support the war effort.
To make sure they had enough.
Exactly. They needed to make sure they had enough weapons, ammunition, everything.
And it wasn't just the government.
Right.
It was also like everyday people were affected.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Right, because now
the workforce had to expand.
To include women. Right, because a lot of the men were off fighting.
The men were off fighting, so women had to step up and take on those roles.
And this was a huge...
It was a massive
shift.
And then there's also the rise of propaganda to maintain public morale and support for the war effort.
So basically, the Industrial Revolution wasn't just about...
It wasn't just about technology. It was about society as a whole.
Right. It was about this complete societal transformation.
It was a total transformation.
And it's amazing to think.
I know. It's fascinating.
How, this period that we associate with factories and mass production could just this...
It had huge implications.
Yeah. These lasting consequences for how we think about war today.
I think that's one of the biggest takeaways here.
Yeah. What is that takeaway?
The Industrial Revolution didn't just change the way wars were fought. It changed the very nature of war itself.
So it's not just about, muskets versus machine guns.
Right.
It's about all of the...
It's about the societal implications.
Yeah, these societal and ethical.
Exactly. And these themes continue to resonate today.
Okay, so give me some examples of that.
Well, think about the debates surrounding drone warfare.
Okay, yeah.
Cyber attacks, the use of artificial intelligence in the military.
Right.
All of these issues are directly tied to the legacy of the Industrial Revolution.
Because they're all about how technology is changing the way...
It's changing the way we fight wars.
Yeah.
And the ethical implications of that.
So basically what we learn from the Industrial Revolution is more relevant now.
More relevant than ever.
Than ever.
In our technologically advanced world.
Wow. This deep dive has really been eye-opening for me.
It's been a fascinating journey.
I feel like I have a whole new understanding of the Industrial Revolution.
It's a complex period with lasting consequences.
And it's just amazing to see how those consequences are still playing out today.
It's a story that's still being written.
Well, thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
And a huge thank you to all of our listeners.
Yes, thanks for listening.
For joining us on this incredible journey.
We hope you learned something new.
We hope you learned something new, and we hope you'll continue to explore.
Yes, keep exploring.
This fascinating history of warfare.
It's a rich and complex topic.
And its impact on our world.
Until next time.
See you next time.